Welcome to the Live Unrestricted podcast, a show where you'll learn how to heal your relationship with food and your body so that you can focus your time and energy on more important things like your personal growth. I'm your host, Sabrina Magna, food freedom coach, and my mission is to help make your life happier and healthier without stress, overwhelm, or guilt about food. If you love the show, please do go out and share it. And if you're looking for support with your relationship with food, details about my programs are in the show notes. Thanks for spending time with me today. Now let's jump in. If you've ever dieted before or had a weight loss resolution, then you know that this is the time of year where diet culture tends to ramp up and get very loud. You're going to start seeing ads on Instagram, on Facebook about these new weight loss diets. You're probably going to start getting emails from Noom and Weight Watchers asking you to get back on track on January 1st. January is basically the National Dieting Month, and it is going to be upon us once again. And so before you sign up for another restrictive eating plan that has been designed by someone who doesn't even know you, before you go on another restrictive clean January, I want to talk about the reasons why that might not be the best thing for your relationship with food if you are currently working towards moving into intuitive eating and you are trying to let go of that diet mentality. So I'm going to talk about the reasons why weight loss and dieting resolutions don't work and why they might actually be more harmful than doing any good. And then we're going to talk about the things that you can actually focus on, 3 ways that you can heal your relationship with food in 2023. Now, before I get into this, I want to just take a quick minute to thank everyone who has listened and subscribed and downloaded the first 6 episodes of the podcast. I'm absolutely overwhelmed with all of the messages and support that I've gotten. Within the first week, we made it as the top 3 podcasts in Canada in nutrition, and we made it as a top 50 podcast in nutrition worldwide, which just blew me away, blew any expectations I had. And I'm just so honored to be able to be in your ear and helping you on this journey towards healing your relationship with food. This is something I wish that I had years ago when I was struggling with my own disordered eating, and to know that it's helping you in any capacity means the world to me. So thank you. Make sure that you keep sharing, that you keep tuning in every single week, because I'm just even more excited to release these weekly episodes and help you in any way that I can. My goal with this episode is to let 2022 be the last year that you feel like a slave to food, so that you no longer go up and down the same 20 pounds over and over again, so that December is no longer this free-for-all and anxiety-filled period, instead of just focusing on spending time with your family and friends and cherishing this holiday season. And so that once you actually put a stop to this January resolution of losing weight or dieting, you can get to a place where your eating feels consistent, it's balanced all year long, and there's no more of that emotional roller coaster that comes with starting a diet, failing a diet time and time again. So this episode is for you if you're already thinking about what diet you'll start in the new year, if you have a pattern of letting all of your food rules and restrictions go out the window during the holidays. It turns into this 2-week cheat week, and vow to get back on track in January, but always end up sticking to that diet for a couple of weeks and then just fall off the wagon and fall right back to the same habits that you had in November or December, those habits that triggered you to get back on the wagon in January. If you've had a resolution of getting healthier or losing weight for at least 5 years, but every December you look back on your year with disappointment or shame or regret that once again, you weren't able to stick to it. So if you can relate to one or more of these things, this episode is going to be really powerful for you. Now, here's the thing when it comes to intuitive eating that I think that a lot of people don't understand is that when you are pursuing intuitive eating, chances are that you have been also pursuing weight loss for the majority of your life. And what I always explain to my clients or anyone who's new to the world of intuitive eating is that you do not need to let go of your desire to lose weight. And I don't expect your desire to lose weight to disappear overnight, especially given that we live in a fat phobic, weight obsessed diet culture that is always telling us that to be lovable or to be worthy or to be attractive, we need to look a certain way. And so I'm not necessarily asking you to let go of your desire to lose weight in the new year. But the thing is that despite our cultural obsession with weight loss, despite the before and after pictures, despite what diet culture may have promised you, studies have proven that diets don't actually lead to lasting changes in your weight or your health for the large majority of people. And so if your desire really is to lose weight, then dieting is not the way to get there. And intuitive eating is also not a weight loss approach. It is not designed for intentional weight loss. But if you do want to genuinely improve your health, if you want to improve your eating habits, if you want to put a stop to overeating and feeling obsessed with food, and if you want to have a better mindset around exercise, around your habits, around self-care, then moving away from intentional weight loss in 2023 is the way to do that. Diving into intuitive eating is the way to do that. After all, if diets worked for lasting change, then you would have lost weight the first time you went on a diet. Then all of these companies like Weight Watchers and Noom would not be thriving off of repeat customers. There's a reason why when I talk to women who have done Weight Watchers, they haven't just done it once. They haven't just done it twice. They've done it time and time again, is because the moment that they stop doing it, the moment that they stop relying on this super restrictive plan, then they overeat, they go right back to their old habits, and they go back to that original thing that they think helped them, when really it's the thing that triggered all of these obsessive behaviors around food in the first place. And so I want to talk about the reasons why setting a New Year's resolution to lose weight or to diet won't actually get you to the place that you want to be. And it's only going to lead you to you looking back in December 2023 at another year wasted, another year spent obsessing over food and your body and nothing to show for it. And that is not what I want for you. So let's talk about the first reason why an effort to lose weight is only really bound to result in weight cycling. The most common outcome of any weight loss effort is not sustained changes in weight or health. It is weight cycling, meaning repeatedly losing and gaining the same weight time and time again, which actually has been associated with poorer health outcomes. The reason being is that dieting is not sustainable. And so what people do is they turn their whole life around. They go from 0 to 100. Dieting is synonymous with an all or nothing mentality, and you're able to stick to it and lose weight for a short period of time. During that time, your body is going to start fighting back. You're going to start having more cravings, more obsessive thoughts about food. And eventually you're going to fall off the wagon, because that is human nature, both on an emotional, psychological side and a biological side. Your body is going to respond to get you the fuel that it needs. It thinks that it's in starvation mode. It's feeling deprived. On a psychological side, you have that fear of missing out. You are constantly thinking about the things that you can't have. And all of this kind of boils together to create this eruption of falling off the wagon, binging. There's a reason why the restrict and binge cycle is so common in the dieting world, is because you restrict, you're losing weight during that period of time. And then eventually you lose control. And what starts off as this one cheat meal, turns into a cheat day, turns into a cheat week. And before you know it, you are right back to where you first started. The weight has come back. And that is why we are seeing that weight cycling of losing the 20 pounds, gaining the 20 pounds time and time again. And what we know from research is that you are actually better off maintaining a consistently higher weight. So for example, if you are staying consistently at 180, you are living a balanced lifestyle, you're listening to your body, you are eating the foods that you love, you're not going to these extremes to take care of your health or to lose weight, you are better off maintaining that higher weight than if you were to repeatedly go up and down between 120 and 140, which might not even be a weight that your body is supposed to land on, might not be a healthy weight for you. And so the bottom line here is that weight cycling is damaging to people both physically and psychologically, and any effort of intentional weight loss is just likely to result in that. Number 2 is that dieting gets in the way of creating lasting behavior change. In other words, it doesn't help you develop sustainable habits. When you treat nutrition and physical activity only as a means to weight loss, you're not likely to eat well or be active if your attempts don't lead to the results that you want. And you're more likely return to old habits even if you do lose weight. So what I mean by that is if you're focusing on external things like the number on the scale or the size of your pants or what you look like in the mirror, then what happens when you no longer see a change in that external, when you are no longer losing weight, but you're sacrificing all of these things, you're putting your life on hold, you're eating foods that maybe you don't necessarily love, and you're giving up foods that you do love, and you're not seeing the results out of it, then that's why people fall off the wagon or give up, because when you're focusing on external things, your motivation is extrinsic motivation. Extrinsic motivation involves doing something because you want to earn a reward. In this sense, it would be losing weight or avoid punishment, which is gaining weight. Whereas intrinsic motivation involves doing something because of how it makes you feel. It is rewarding to you to wake up in the morning and have more energy and feel good in your body. And so one of the biggest mistakes I see when people are going after intentional weight loss or just want to improve their health is not learning how to develop that intrinsic motivation and constantly focusing on that extrinsic motivation through calorie counting or weighing themselves on the scale or seeing how many steps they achieved on their Fitbit that day. The third reason that dieting or intentional weight loss won't get you to where you want to be in the new year is that if your goal is to change your mindset around food, it's to release that guilt, that anxiety, if you want to eat quote unquote normally again, then there is absolutely no way that dieting is going to get you there, because in and of itself, what dieting does is it teaches you to hyper focus on food, right? It teaches you to think about the things that you cannot have. It teaches you to overanalyze every single bite, every single calorie, carb, sugar. It takes up so much mental space. And so if you are someone who wants to have more mental space to focus on things like your career or your family or your relationship, there's absolutely no way that doing another diet in the new year is going to help you get there. If anything, all it will do is create more of that anxiety, more of that perfectionism. And really the reality is that you do not need to be perfect. You do not need to give up all the things that you love in order to improve your health. And in fact, when you learn how to live with all foods and stop looking them as good or bad, when you have them all on the same level, then you're going to be able to release that guilt, and you're going to be able to eat foods that make you feel good while enjoying the foods that you love without losing control, because you're not going to be telling yourself that you have to start again tomorrow. that you need to go back to restricting tomorrow, you know that those foods will always be available for you. And so to sum that up, if you want to think about food less, if you want to have a more normal relationship with food, then dieting is sure not to get you there. Now, reason number 4, if you are a binger, if you're an overeater, then this is for you. We know that restriction leads to binging. Dieting and food restriction have been shown to increase the risk of binge eating. When you feel deprived, when you are not feeding your body enough, when you feel guilt, when you are not listening to your hunger and fullness cues, you are more likely to overeat once you stop restricting. And this restrict and binge cycle is the opposite of a moderate, balanced, and peaceful approach to food and eating. And finally, number 5, if dieting was meant to work, it would have worked by us. I want you to look back on your past. How many January 1st have you set a resolution to try one last diet, to try one more time, to vow that this year is going to be better? And if you have 5, 10, 20 years of failed diet attempts under your belt, I want you to know that it is not your fault. The diet industry is extremely smart. It is the only industry that is able to sell you a product, and when it doesn't work, when it inevitably doesn't work because it was never meant to work, it was always meant to fail, it convinces the consumers to blame themselves instead of blaming the very thing that is not working for 95% of people. And if your friend had been in a toxic relationship, on and off for over 5-10 years. And every time she came back to you, she said, we're giving this another chance, right? I think this time is going to be different. I want you to ask yourself what you would say to that friend, right? What kind of advice you would give to that friend. I'm assuming that it would be somewhere along the lines of, there's a reason why you broke up 10 times. There's a reason why this isn't working, and maybe you should try dating someone new, right? And so same thing goes with dieting. All of the different things that you've tried, the keto and the calorie counting and anything that is centered on restriction, on overanalyzing food, on listening to someone else telling you how to eat instead of trusting your intuition and intuitively eating and listening to your body, it all goes into the same bucket. And so if you are trying the same thing over and over and over again and expecting different results, then you can just expect the same year to look like the past 10 years. And I don't want that for you. So it is not your fault that your New Year's resolutions to lose weight didn't work. The most unfortunate thing about New Year's weight loss resolutions is that when you feel that you've failed to live up to whatever expectations you set for yourself, there's a temptation to believe that there's something wrong with you. I dedicate my life to helping people understand, repair, and restore their relationship with food so that they can experience that big and vibrant life that they've been craving all along. And I want that same thing for you. But it won't come from a resolution. It's going to happen when you take the time to address the root cause of your behaviors and your relationship with food. Understanding yourself, your triggers, and how your mindset behind your food choices affect how you behave around certain foods, why you lose control, why you feel guilt, why you're constantly craving certain things. It's going to change your life. I have a client who is currently enrolled in my January 2023 Food Freedom Academy group, and she's already started diving into some of the materials that we're going to go over together once the group starts. And she sent me this message a couple of days ago. She said, "Good morning. I just wanted to shoot you a quick message. I just completed the Letting Go of Food Guilt module, the second lesson, Understanding Binging. Incredible. I can't explain how impactful this lesson was. The what the hell effect is 100% me." And this next part of the message perfectly encompasses what I'm talking about when it comes to understanding yourself, getting to know your own pattern. She said, Starting to understand what makes me tick has felt like I'm not wandering around aimlessly in the fog. I almost feel like I'm starting to get to know myself. It's such a beautiful feeling. And so to constantly jump from one diet to another, it may provide that instant gratification, but really all it is putting a band-aid on a bullet wound. So what should you focus on instead? In 2023, instead of going from 0 to 100 and restricting yourself or chasing weight loss, if you want to have 2023 be the year that you finally end your struggle with yo-yo dieting and end your war with food and your body, then I'm going to tell you three of my favorite ways. Of course, there are many others that we can talk about in the program, but these are three of my favorite ways that you can start focusing on healing your relationship with food in 2023. So if you can, grab out a pen, piece of paper to take some notes so that you can absorb some of this and you can start applying it to your own life right away, that you don't have to wait until January 1st to start doing these things. So number one is to make a firm commitment to ditch diet culture, to ditch the diet mentality once and for all. We talked about this in the 10 principles of intuitive eating in one of the previous episodes, and reject the diet mentality is principle number one. If you're like most of the people that I work with, then the idea of not dieting can be really scary. Even if the thought of going on even just one more diet seems absolutely dreadful for you, it is still normal to feel panicky about letting go of dieting, especially when the world around you is dieting. And as you're going into the holiday season, I am sure you're going to hear from your Aunt Karen or your cousin Mary about the new keto diet they're doing, or about Weight Watchers and telling you that you should do this and do that. And it is so easy to get sucked into those conversations and to stop trusting yourself and stop trusting the journey that you're on to become an intuitive eater, to heal your relationship with food. But when you've hit that diet rock bottom feeling, it's a pretty terrible feeling. I've been there. When the thought of going on even one more diet gives you the urge to binge, when you feel guilty every time that you eat, when you are constantly struggling with binging and overeating and thinking about food all the time, when you know that dieting doesn't work, but you don't know anything else, and your social life, your relationships, your mental health are suffering. One thing that I can really encourage you to do is to remember your history with dieting, to look at all of the different things that you've done. And even if they've worked long term, I want you to ask yourself, was I able to ever sustain this long term? Can I see myself doing this when I'm 80 or 70 or 60 years old? Can I see myself living this way for the rest of my life? Tracking food, measuring food, overanalyzing everything. And if the answer is no, then we need to remove that mentality of when I lose weight, then, right? When I lose weight, then I'll reincorporate these foods, and then I will be able to eat normally, and then I will be happy. This when then fallacy is what keeps people stuck in this pattern for so many years. Your life is happening right now. And if you don't learn how to listen to your body now, if you don't learn how to eat in a way that includes all foods in the way that you want to be eating when you're 50 or 60 or 70 years old, if you don't learn that now, then losing the 20 pounds, losing the 30 pounds is not going to have any effect on your mindset on food in a positive way. If anything, it's just going to make eating harder and more confusing and more frustrating for you. So the first thing that you want to do is you want to step out of that one last diet trap, right? That trap that we think that just try one more diet. This one is going to be different because someone has done it and they've been able to keep the weight off. Those before and after pictures that you might see online or from your relatives or people you know, we see the before and after pictures. We don't see the before, after, and after. when they've gained the weight back, when they've binged, when they've restarted Weight Watchers for the fourth. We don't see what's going on internally, how they're staying home every Friday night because they're afraid to go to the restaurant and eat things that are off plan. You don't see them having low self-esteem or feeling out of control or deprived or struggling with cravings all day long. What you see on social media, what you see in pictures, it doesn't address the full picture of what's really going on. And this one last diet trap has probably been keeping you in this cycle, in this food obsessed life for so much longer than you needed to. So the initial step to becoming an intuitive eater is to make a commitment to reject the diet mentality. As long as you cling to a small hope that a quick diet is going to turn your weight around, it's going to jumpstart you into a new person, that you are just going to snap your fingers and eating is just going to fall into place for you once you lose weight, you won't be free from the harm and the obsession of the weight of dieting. Giving into the just one more diet trap is one of the biggest traps because it doesn't face reality that diets don't work. So how could another diet be the solution when it's been the cause of the problem all along? The second way that you can focus on healing your relationship with food in 2023 without setting a resolution or a weight loss or dieting goal is to look at your eating behaviors as a learning experience, to start approaching your habit as this experiment, as a scientist, as a researcher, gathering data, instead of looking at a binge or emotional eating or food guilt as a indication that there's something wrong with you or as a personal flaw. I want you to look at how you can start connecting the dots instead. And so if you are someone who after binge starts blaming yourself, right? I have no willpower. I'm lazy. I must be unmotivated. What is wrong with me? Instead, I want you to use those experiences as your body and your mind trying to tell you something, right? Looking back on your day, am I eating enough? Am I eating consistently? Am I honoring my hunger and fullness cues? Am I honoring my cravings? Am I feeling bad about certain foods that I'm eating? Am I labeling foods as good and bad? Do I have an all or nothing mentality, right? All of these things that have been learned, all of these behaviors and mindsets that have been learned through dieting are the reason for your disordered eating habits now. It's not because you were born binging. It's not because you were born with something wrong with you or something broken. All of these were learned. And the beautiful thing about that is that they can be unlearned. But the first step to change is awareness. And so bringing awareness to your patterns. For example, I noticed that because I wasn't eating enough during the day, or because I wasn't eating enough carbs during the day, I was struggling with sugar and carb cravings at night because my body was telling me that number one, something was missing. And number two, I was craving carbs all day. I was looking at my friends having the piece of pizza or the donut and thinking, God, I wish that I could have that. And I felt so much guilt from those cravings that when nighttime came around and I was alone, of course I ate everything in sight because I was lacking that enjoyment of food, that pleasure that I wasn't getting during the day. And so this is something that I do with my own clients through something called the Food and Mood Journal, but looking at how you can start connecting the dots instead of blaming yourself. And number three, the third way that you can work to heal your relationship with food in 2023, once you've brought that awareness, once you're starting to recognize your own patterns, is to address physical and emotional restrictions. If you have food rules about what you can't or cannot eat, when you can or cannot eat, for example, I can't eat after 8 p.m. or I can only eat after 12 p.m. If you have rules about how many carbs you're allowed to eat, or even if they're not set rules, but you feel like you should limit or avoid sugar, you're keeping food out of the house, all of these can be emotional and physical restrictions. I want you to write them down. I want you to write them all down. And this is an exercise that may take you a while because a lot of the times we don't even realize what rules that we have around our eating. To give you a few examples, one of them for me was I can only have carbs at one meal of the day, or I can have bread, but only if it's whole wheat. And the best way to know if this is a rule for you is if it causes you anxiety to break it. If it causes you anxiety to eat at 8 a.m. instead of 10 a.m., if it causes you anxiety to eat pasta and a sandwich in the same day. And so evaluating what your mental and physical restrictions are and how they may be associated to your lack of control, to your overeating, to your binging. So I want you to remember that your relationship with food and your body did not form overnight, and it will not be healed overnight. It will not be healed with one resolution to do the same thing on January 1st. It's a process. It's a journey. And if you need a little inspiration about how the process of discovering a new relationship with food can change every aspect of your life, I will post some of our food freedom stories from past clients and members of the Food Freedom Academy in the show notes. But I hope that this timely episode, as the end of the year is nearing and you're going to start seeing family, they're probably going to make comments about food and about weight and about dieting. As you're already thinking about how you're going to get back on track in January, I want you to remember that people are often drawn to the remedy to a problem without regards to long-term implications of a quick fix. And this approach only exacerbates the problem rather than permanently solving it. If you are looking for improved health, to be in a healthier physical body, then that is only going to get ruined in an attempt in a race for rapid results and short-term benefits. And so how can you go into 2023 with different goals? Goals of breaking free from the bondage of chronic dieting and weight cycling and overeating, how to make connections with your relationship with food and your eating habits, how to learn new ways to think and feel and act around food, and how to free up your energy to focus on your intentions on living a more vibrant, more fulfilled life, on not thinking about food 24/7 and being there for your relationships and the people around you and making memories. So those 3 ways that we talked about today was, number 1, making a firm commitment, whether that is out loud to someone else, to me. You can send me a message on Instagram and you can make that commitment to me to reject the diet mentality once and for all. Number 2 is to look at your behaviors as a learning experience from a place of curiosity and compassion instead of blaming yourself and thinking that there must just be something wrong with you. And number 3 is to address the physical, emotional restrictions that you may be putting onto yourself. Now, I know how important accountability is, which is why it's one of the biggest pillars in my program. Being held accountable, having someone supporting you and keeping you on the right track is so incredibly important, especially as, like I said before, as the world around you is dieting and you want to keep trusting yourself, you want to make sure that you're on the right path. So I want to be that accountability for you. And so if you want to shoot me a message on Instagram telling me how you are planning on rejecting the diet mentality, how you are planning to hold your boundaries during the holiday season, how you are changing your goals and what your goals are going to be for 2023, then I would love nothing more than to hear them. So shoot me a message on Instagram at Sabrina Magna Health. And if you are looking for support in your relationship with food in 2023, our enrollment is currently open for my Food Freedom Academy, which is my signature group coaching program that helps women heal their relationship with food, become intuitive eaters, and genuinely improve their health in a balanced and consistent and genuine way. So if you want to know more about the program, if you want to apply, then you can look at the show notes, sabrinamagnow.com/Food Freedom Academy, and you'll find all the details there on how you can apply. Thank you so much for listening. Have an amazing week, and I will talk to you in the next episode. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. If you found it valuable, I would love if you would share it with someone you know that could benefit. If you're loving the show, don't forget to subscribe over on Apple Podcasts so you don't miss a single episode. I really love hearing feedback from you, so please leave a rating and review over on Apple to help us get in the ears of more people who need it the most. Finally, come hang out with me on Instagram at Sabrina Magna Health for more educational content and get up close and personal with me. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you on the next episode. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. If you found it valuable, I would love if you would share it with someone you know that could benefit. If you're loving the show, don't forget to subscribe over on Apple Podcasts so you don't miss a single episode. I really love hearing feedback from you, so please leave a rating and review over on Apple to help us get in the ears of more people who need it the most. Finally, come hang out with me on Instagram at Sabrina Magna Health for more educational content and get up close and personal with me. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you on the next episode.